This week, we'll be speaking to Alex Liu. Alex Liu is a spoken word poet, a performer, and a visual artist. A former radical leftist, Alex is more a moderate left-leaning these days and advocates for ideals based on education and empathy. Here is our conversation I had with Alex. I do want to get out that the Militant Moderate show is definitely anti-virus.
That's good.
Yeah, so we're yeah.
Yeah.
Like, who's like pro-virus? I don't know, maybe some weird vaxxers.
Yeah. Out there. At least we have a baseline set. So cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if we have a baseline set. I mean, when we're talking about nobody is on the same page, and unfortunately, everybody's opinions fall right down partisan lines.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I will say on my personal opinion that it's very serious, and it should be taken very seriously. And I think the problem lies in terms of everyone else's emotional input at the time in relationship to the virus. In terms of, I think it being part of our culture for a couple months now, people are starting to get antsy with it. And there's this thing that I read up on. What was it, caution fatigue that people are experiencing at the time at this moment. So why a lot of people who were taking it seriously are sort of like, you know what, how long do we got to keep it going? So
caution
fatigue.
What is that? That is
Yeah.
not something I've heard of.
Caution fatigue, as in, how I try to put it in a metaphor for someone is like, if you're someone who's afraid of like spiders or something, and they're just around your house, maybe for the first day, you want to call so exterminator or someone to get rid of them, but they keep on coming after days, weeks, they start to just become part of your life. And so the caution and fear you had at once looking at insects or whatever, and in this case, coronavirus,
Right.
it's been there for this long. People are starting to get sick of it, and so the fears that they once had is starting to like push us aside or relax on it.
So caution fatigue would happen if you've been caring about absolutely everything for so long. Eventually, you stop caring about anything or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I can.
Yeah.
That was just one I hadn't heard before, but no, that really fits. I mean, I am like 4 times at risk. So I am not going outside at all. I have a respiratory issue, and I'm on blood thinners because of that respiratory issue. And I'm about to hit half a century mark next month, and my insurance is dog shit. So which yeah. So we see a lot of people out there during the protests. A lot of people went out not as many as were protesting, but Trump's rally. We saw. Yeah. I'm thinking that maybe we probably did open a little too soon, but when you look at the numbers of the hardest hit demographic, and I know it sounds callous that I'm just talking, because I am just talking numbers here. It seems to be people over the expected life expectancy age, which I think is like 76. So people over 76, this has been real mother. And I was also seeing like other apparently European countries, they've put the kids back in school. And I know people will definitely say, okay, that it probably only 1% of this, but like that's like 600. If there was like 6 million kids went to school, it's like 1%. It's like what, 6,000 kids would catch it. None of them, and way down. Thankfully, nobody's really. They're not dying of it. Only a couple had, and they had pre-existing conditions as it was.
Yeah,
so, yeah. But I hope everybody stays safe, because I cannot say don't protest, because that's a First Amendment right. Or going to a Trump rally. That's freedom of, Trump has the freedom of speech to hold a rally. So, what do we do? I think we're probably going to be with this virus well into 2022, the way things are going.
22. Interesting.
Yeah, we could just
Guesstimate's best case scenario was like spring 2021. But, what do you think in terms of just at the pace that we're going? Yeah, I don't think that we're going to be able to, see things get back to normal until like a 2022. Just if this culture of like, if we can't get on the same page, and I'm just speaking like in terms of America, if we can't get on the same page of wearing masks, then I can see this, bleeding well into the 2022 range. I think if everyone were on the same page, though, if we were to all just wear masks, then I could see this expediting the process a lot sooner.
Yeah, and I don't see any harm in wearing a mask as much as Adrian took me out last Monday, and I'm wearing the mask, and it was like 110 degrees, and my respiratory. So yeah, I did fight it pretty hard to breathe, but I was outside, so I do believe I probably did take it off at some point. But yeah, it's just if you're healthy, and it doesn't bother you at all, please do it, or limit the time that you're outside if you for some reason have an existing condition that makes it so you can't wear a mask. I'm sure there are people with more severe things than me on exactly what I just mentioned. I'm sure there are people out there who's going to hit 75, which puts them more at risk. I'm sure that there are people out there that are have shittier insurance than mine, although probably only a baker's dozen. And they probably have people with a more severe respiratory and maybe even harder weapons grade blood thinners. So and look, if you see people not wearing masks and that makes you uncomfortable, go back home. What can we do?
Yeah. I've even seen there's been a lot of younger folks who've been like dying at the hands of like I know some friends, and I've just like 2 weeks ago, like a Broadway star who was 41 was fighting for the past 3 months and had passed away. And he was a healthy, individual. So, and I think this virus is just so new, and I think everyone is just playing Russian roulette with like how their body would potentially react to it. And some folks around my age group are definitely one of the, among the 20s age, they're definitely the daredevils of this time right now. I know the biggest spikes of the past weeks have been because of a lot of people within their 20s going out to bars for Memorial Day weekend, for July 4th. Yeah. And we're seeing, now it's been a few weeks since we're seeing those cases come up because of those.
Yeah, along with the ones from the peaceful protesting and the rioters. Not saying that they're the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. We probably opened we probably opened a little too soon. But
yeah.
But because
there's also debate. Yeah. There's also debate of like, well, the economy has to go on. Like this is something I'm like arguing with my father all the time, because he's on the side of like, I'm erring on the side of caution at any, at any part of this is just like the safer the better. For anybody's sake, regardless of age, and even if you're young, you can still pass it on to people who who are more at risk. So on the air.
That's why I'm staying indoors.
Yeah. So I'm with you, but someone like my father is saying like, look, the world has to go on. Economy is awful as it is. People have to work. People have to make money.
Yeah.
And so he's on the side of like opening things up, and just he's leaving it up to everyone else's individual responsibility.
Right.
Make it your own responsibilities, and but everything else, like we should get on the pace of like getting things back to normal, which he's thinking a little too soon on that. In my experience, I think he's just aggravated. But I'll just present that because that's something that I've been in conversation with people about.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I understand what your father is saying. That
Yeah.
because of how Trump and Congress is right now, they just can't do anything together.
Mm-hmm.
We really do need another stimulus package, because I'm also very worried about all the mom and pop businesses just drying up.
Eviscerated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and all the larger, bigger box retailers, they're fine. Walmart
Uh-huh.
never really shut down.
Uh-huh.
They reduced at least the one in our area, they reduced the hours that it was
Mm-hmm.
open. It's normally open to midnight. I think they were closing at 8 for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying you have to wear a mask, and they had the whole line, which has the little marks that are 6 feet, 6 feet, 6 feet. But that's
Right.
small. And I thought, hey, if your business sells what Walmart sells, sure, open up. Maybe you only have one person in the store at a time, or it's appointment only. But of
Mm-hmm.
course, if you need a high volume of sales, like you're just a regular corner party store, and you need to sell a lot of little low ticket, where your average sale is about $5. When your average sale is somewhere over $1,000, that's generally an appointment only business as it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if Walmart was allowed to stay open, I think anybody who again, any retailer, if they want to reopen, I think should. Still being
Mm-hmm.
cautious, because
Yeah.
we're not getting, those small businesses aren't getting the bailouts. Trump let it
Yeah.
happen though through his the banker people, who, of course, the bigger the loan, the bigger the commission they got. It's one of the things why the free market doesn't really run everything well.
Yeah.
You do have to have some regulations.
Yeah.
But yeah, on that note, there's I just hate to see, like, what's it going to look like if we're still
Yeah.
stuck another 5 months and Congress
Mm-hmm.
won't send us out a loan or a stimulus money, because that we got that $1,200, and then we spent that $1,200 to stimulate,
Yeah.
and I know you understand that. I'm just saying that for to map out what I'm talking about.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
yeah, as soon as it does, yeah. Oh God. But you're looking at businesses like, Hometown Buffet. I know Soup Plantation is the first one to file for bankruptcy, as far as the
Yeah. Saw that.
largest one. And business models like that, when are they going to be able to come back? And
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily when are they able to open their stores, but when are people going to trust it?
Right. Right.
So yeah, we're kind of screwed. This couldn't happen at the worst time. We're basically trying to pour 48 ounces of crazy and stupid into a 12-ounce cup.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And yeah, it just, from what I've seen in conversation and people that I know who are small business owners, um, it's it's real difficult, and not everything can be transferred online. Not every
Yeah.
business is, some people, thank goodness, have been able to convert.
Mhm.
Like I've seen like online yoga instruction, online dance classes. But even they're worried about like that drawing up as people are still getting laid off.
Right.
Um,
I'm saying a
as
friend of mine's doing online MMA classes, but
yeah,
you can't get a masseuse.
yeah, no,
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 that's not something that. Well, there are some sites out there that do, like, say that it transfers over into that touchy world, but that's a whole other
Mhm.
thing. And I don't think,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I have a friend who's a masseuse as well, who's still practicing, even though she really shouldn't be. She's
Mhm.
just more on like a need to know client basis of, and that built-in trust, but still that's gambling. That's gambling with a lot of lies, in my opinion, because it is such a physical, like you're talking about 6 feet apart, and here we are. Just like,
no, you are in there. You are.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
You're ducking the bodily fluids and everything. It's just
everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be skin on skin too. Because I can't imagine one with rubber gloves or anything like that. So with the incubation period, we're hearing anywhere from 10 to 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how many she could get like every one of her customers for almost a solid week and a half.
Yeah, yeah, and vice versa on her. Yeah, and so I'm just like, I've come to a point where I don't know if you relate to it, but I have been like that voice of like caution and concern in my friend groups, and I've just been trying to really get it through people's heads. Like, this is serious. I have friends who've been affected by it, and I just hit a wall with some people who just aren't able to, aren't able to accept it.
The people that think this is a CIA plot.
I have a lot of those who are just sharing Facebook memes and as their information, still sharing links to Plandemic. I don't know if you're aware of that video that went viral.
Plandemic, no.
Plandemic, no. It's a like. It's still unclear how the origins are. It was like a documentary interviewing various scientists and experts who are basically theorizing that this was all a plan. It was a way to like cripple world economies, benefit the 1%. Super conspiracy laden, theory driven documentary that people were trying to pass on as facts, that were like 5G towers. I think I had mentioned that. And
they're spreading the virus. 5G towers.
Yeah.
And we faked the moon landing.
Another theory. Yep. The world is flat.
Yeah, that's God. It's because of just everybody seems to hate Trump, and a lot of that is understandable. But nobody wants to work with him, and even though he's actually getting a lot of stuff done, but because we're so close to an election, you got to question.
Can we work with him?
Angle.
That's my question. Can we work with him? Because based on a lot of, he seems to be he is just denying all of it and focusing more so on his campaign for re-election versus the big issues at hand. So is it possible to work with him?
I think so, because I mean, even Kim Kardashian went to the White House and got a lady sprung from jail. I think he actually will listen. Whether or not he actually does it, is the thing. He's got a very kind of a people pleasing, where he's a bit he's a little too agreeable. Well, he's got himself in trouble because he doesn't speak before he talks.
Yeah,
he's got no inner monologue. It's just all monologue. And we've gotten some stuff done on prison reform. We're not going to get on the same page about building a wall between Mexico and the United States, whether or not even necessary.
That's been a 4-year endeavor, which I don't think is coming to fruition in either house. So, but the thing about Trump, though, he reacts to what's he reacts to what will give him the positive light, whatever. In that situation of Kim Kardashian and that lady that he was able to grant clemency for, that was a full, with the clout that Kim Kardashian and Kanye West have, that was full social media, driven, that that I'm assuming Trump saw and then reacted accordingly to be like, okay, this is something that will help me, my ratings. Let me go on and help this person and get that boost up, and then go ahead and pass on some bill that would contradict it. I think I don't think he has faith in towards any side other than the one that will get him, popular. And right now, it's popular for him to deny, in his mind, to deny the numbers, and even go as far as to like cut funding from WHO in order to stop the testing, to make the numbers go away.
Yeah.
So I think that's his MO at the end of the day.
There is, and he did come in on a campaign promise that he was going to reduce the scale of government, reduce the amount of money that government spends, along with all the, just, basically reducing as much government down to as small as it's a libertarian thing. So I get it, but especially he's very much against foreign aid or, the World Health Organization, which it sounds, its title, but they really dropped the ball on this. They, because even Dr. Fauci was saying that America doesn't need to worry about this well into February. So
there's speculation that Dr. Fauci was only able to get any kind of information out regarding the virus if he was going to play ball with the Trump administration. If he was, they had to walk a fine line with like getting accurate information out there while also like checking in with Trump's ego. And so I think it sounds like he was set up for them to go back into comments Fauci made in Fauci.
Okay.
To go back into, to discredit Fauci with things that he said in February at a time when he was trying to, juggle between the facts and dealing with Trump's administration. So that's how I look at it, at least.
Well, it was saying, because, Trump talked about it in his State of the Union speech that he was helping China. That was February 3rd. Said that they were working with China to combat this virus. There was about this virus. Oh, I just lost my train of thought again. We had something pop up on the screen here. Here, and I can't see your face. There we go. All right. And because of what Fauci told Trump, I believe that his information had an effect on what Trump did on February 5th, which was send 18 tons of PPE to China to help this thing out. Which, as we learned, it would have probably had an effect on what happened to us if we had that, because we were running low on it. And even Snopes said that happened, and Snopes doesn't want to say anything positive about Trump, because you could say that was a humanitarian decision. Now, Trump is a couple of zip codes away from ideal. But if you can play him, and that's both a good and a bad. If you tell him that his hair is nice, he'll give you half of Alaska. So I think if you actually want to get stuff passed, I know Rand Paul got his enterprise zones. I think they're called economic freedom zones now. And Rand and Don went at one another in the Republican primary. And I know Trump has also made fun of him in a couple of places. I would like to say that I think Trump doesn't want to be known as the worst president of all time. Just saying, I don't think that's something that he wants to be his legacy.
I think that's indisputable at this point. Unless you can point out to, like, any president who's fared worse than Trump.
Well, yeah, I mean, one, it's off topic, but I think Woodrow Wilson is the worst president that we've ever had. So, but I also think Obama is one of the worst presidents we had.
Really?
Yes.
In comparison to Trump now and his performance?
Well, Trump's in the middle of his performance. So
I wouldn't say it's in the middle. We're coming on the last 3 months.
But it's Joe Biden's the nominee, so he's basically Trump's running unopposed.
Oh, are you sure about that?
Not at all. Not at all. Because we have the polls out there, but remember what the polls were last time. You know,
Hey,
because
the polls are different this time. It's about 11-12% that Trump's behind Biden, I believe, nationally.
Mhm.
So that's, I believe, with between Clinton and Trump, I think that was a six point difference. I think was the most it was. Um,
Yeah,
but
the 10%,
yeah,
is that aggregating all the polls together or just specific polls?
I saw a national poll. I can't point to which one specifically.
Yeah, I've been looking at
I can look them up. Yeah.
aggregates,
Hmm.
real clear politics. It says it's kind of varying between somewhere in between 8 and 10%.
Okay.
Then, but there, I also know people are looking at the polls from electoral standing. So I think
Hmm.
Biden, at the very least, will win. Will have more votes than Hillary Clinton did, as far as the popular votes go. But electorally speaking, this may only be the center point of Trump's storm.
But even if the wording, even the wording that you have towards it is that you recognize this is a storm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not.
So,
It's because of what happened last time. A lot of the places that we would normally go for, solid information has kind of been damaged.
mhm.
So I don't think now Biden, this couldn't have been a better time for Biden because he needs to, stay indoors and not talk to people and stay off the internet because he's just a human gaffe machine.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't, and he's a lot like Trump in that way, where he doesn't, and like I keep doing, he keeps losing his train of thought. Where
Yeah. Undisputable. Yeah. I won't dispute against that. Yeah. No.
plus the amount of uh, crookedness that is around Biden, and that is almost as much as Hillary preconceived. God, I can't even find that word. Where they looked like they're both dirty politicians, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
both times
Yeah.
the DNC had to find ways to put their thumb on the scale to make sure that Bernie Sanders didn't get anywhere near that nomination
Hmm.
twice. And it really breaks my heart when I see Bernie, hucking and jiving for freaking Biden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't quite as bad as what they did last time because there were a lot of more people in the race instead of, I think, in 2016, because Hillary was kind of the anointed one. There was only maybe
Hmm.
4 other candidates at the beginning. Bernie, I think, yeah. So, and those guys didn't really stay around that long. So I don't know, and I think it was perfectly said are you familiar with the guy by the name of David Axelrod? He runs
David who?
Axelrod. He runs a podcast on
Hmm.
CNN called the Axe Files, as in a chopping axe. And the reason he got there is
Hmm.
because he was the chief strategist of the Obama presidency for the first 3 years. And
Hmm.
he's like, when it came down to the most qualified person, politically qualified person, which I would argue, ever to the human equivalent of Cheeto flavored Adderall, why was it close? Because it was
Hmm.
close. Why was it close? Because of the perceived
Right.
corruption that we had. And I'm sure everything had a small things. I don't think Russia hacked our election. I think that whole thing was just made up the fact that Hillary lost to that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's my biggest knock on Hillary at this point is she couldn't beat that. You've seen it with your eyes open. You know what a nightmare he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is, all right, we recognize the faults of then.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the DNC hasn't learned.
Yep.
Obviously, we have they've built up towards someone like Joe Biden who I agree with you is not an ideal candidate for us. But
Mm-hmm.
at this point, and now I hate to bring this back up again, the idea of like lesser than two evils, because that was the same, fight that we had in 2016, but now 2020, we have proof that Trump's administration is not successful. He is not, he has proven himself time and time again to be incompetent, to be working towards his best self-interest, to be dividing the nation, especially right now through all the race riots, and to cut funding during a pandemic for the coup organization. So yeah, I will say that how I believe it, and I hope to be true, I don't want another term with Trump, and I will be open to seeing what Joe Biden's administration could potentially grow into. Right now, the proven cases, Trump's administration, not good at all. I'm open to seeing what a Biden administration would be, and quite frankly, a lot of Republicans are. There's a lot of people on the Republican Party who are against Trump.
Old growth Republicans just do not like this guy. The ones that kind of blended with the Democrats when you put neoconservatives and neoliberals. Yeah, it really irritates those guys, But at the end of the day, like Obama, the administration that Joe was a part of, got us involved in 5 additional wars aside from Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm referring to Sudan, Somalia, Libya, Syria, and Yemen. But he was supposed to be the hope and change. He was supposed to bring the soldiers home, and he just expanded it. And those are the only ones we know about. You could possibly think Niger, after the soldier got hit, that was a spotlight was put on them. And that to me is the reason that I couldn't vote for Hillary in 2016 is because in a national security address for the Council on Foreign Relations of November of 2015, it's on YouTube, anybody can watch it, she wanted to invade Syria and overthrow Bashar al-Assad. So I've been involved in one more of those endless wars that we just can't seem to get out of. And I was like, that can't happen again. And she was very, very adamant about it. She softened it in her speech the very next year, but that was in full tilt campaign mode. So yeah, I couldn't see. And I voted for Trump, even though neither one of my votes in 2016 mattered at all, because I voted for Bernie in the primaries. California is an all or nothing state. So if you win 36 of those electoral votes, you get all 55. So I would urge people, because this state is going for Biden. That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So if you find a third party that you're comfortable with, if a third party gets 5% of the popular vote, they're in the next election cycle. They get campaign funds, and they're automatically in the debates in 2024. So. I was a registered Republican when I voted for Bernie in the primaries, and they gave me a provisional ballot, which they didn't count those. No, okay, they counted them, but they didn't count towards the election because the DNC reserves the right to use or not use provisional ballots. So neither one of my votes counted.
I'm curious. You're a registered Republican, but you voted for Bernie?
I'm a registered Democrat.
No? Okay. All right. So where was what's Bernie's appeal for you in relationship to the election?
I think there should be a public option as far as healthcare goes. I think that we should offer free college to qualified individuals at either maybe not necessarily free, but low or no cost at our state-run colleges. I think we need to also invest more into vocational things, which was him. Bernie also was stopping these wars, whereas Hillary was not. So it's more or less, it was a lesser of two evils. It's in the case of Hillary and Trump, but when it was Hillary and Bernie, I had started to like that guy from how he tore apart some of the financial industry. in some of those hearings. So I'm like, oh, I really like this guy. I was aware of him and going back as far as like 2009, even though I know he's been there since like the 90s, early 90s. But yeah, it was a matter of I didn't want to get us into another war and have our soldiers put in harm's way. And what it does to the civilians of those lands is absolutely ridiculous. Look how many refugees and migrants running for their lives in Syria because of what some of the things that were down there were. And so I'll go off on a broken record when it comes to like anti-war, but that was the reason. To cut it short, that was the reason that I voted for Bernie. I believed in him more than I'd seen.
Likewise.
Yeah. And he
I
just
believe in him more than Biden now. I think everyone's on the same page in terms of like Bernie's believability and his record going as back into like civil rights and where he was and his positions that he's taken.
Yeah,
but I'm curious though, because a lot of things that you are like, a lot of things that you're referring to, like a different form of healthcare, free college for those who qualify. Those are more aligned with Biden's platform stances.
If I trusted him, that would be yes.
Yeah.
If but I just don't. I don't trust Biden. I don't think he's going to do that.
With the influence of other politicians like Elizabeth Warren, like Bernie Sanders, would you think that would be a much more likely candidate for those specific changes to happen? I mean, I'm gonna be real. Like, I feel like Biden is that candidate that has more potential for change versus Trump. I think we're just seeing more of the same throughout the years. And in fact, it got worse. And there was a high belief that like, Trump, once he got the presidency, he was going to change his tune. He was going, when they were tired, they were celebrating for sounding more presidential.
Yeah.
And time and time again, he's failed. Yeah. Right. And so I don't understand, or I can't empathize with the people who are like, just another chance. He hasn't had enough time. Or, things are going to turn up. Like there's this I can't describe this faith that people have with Trump at this point of the game, where I think everyone, even the Republican Party, are fed up and saying, you know what, we just need someone different. I don't care that it's Biden. I don't care that he's Trump light in this situation.
I would actually argue that that you could flip that. Because Biden spent his a lifetime in public service, and he has the millions to show for it. I think he was first elected in 1973. So he is a part of that swamp. When he says that progressive health care, he's been calling for the privatization of oh God, why can't I think of it off the top of my head, of Medicare there, and he's tried several times. So now, because if you'll get those Bernie votes, he'll say it. And similar to how in 2016, when Hillary said the first thing she's going to do when she gets in there is end Citizens United and overturn that. And I am completely and utterly for that. She hasn't spoken a word about that since. And so I'm thinking that's probably what's going to happen with Biden. Also, again, he stood by. I don't know when the guy was on the right side of history. We have his record. You can look at the plagiarism charges that ended his 1988 campaign. You can look at how he treated Anita Hill in those. It's on video. It's right there.
Right.
Also, he's got quite a few charges thrown at him in that thing. We know Trump's a pig. So that's kind of like the devil you know is worse than the devil you don't know. But I would say we pretty much know who Biden is at this point. I mean, I would love to say otherwise. I would in this so far this year, I've only voted for Tulsi Gabbard. Again, she was the biggest anti-war candidate we had running. I would have very much liked to have her. I would have liked to have Bernie. I'd even deal in, well, I kind of had my heart broken by Elizabeth Warren after how she went after Bernie in some of the chintziest ways that it was just, God, that was cringy. And of course, the whole tomahawky thing, which, seriously, I mean, you put out the 23andMe thing and it shows you might have been this month of 1% from either Native or South America, one of the two. And I don't like it when Trump says Pocahontas, because it's not Pocahontas, it's Pocahontas, leader of the Cherokee tribe. Okay. Which was, I used to actually hang out with that boatload of Native Americans when I got out here. And that's stolen, I can't remember, it's like their version of stolen valor. You know, when you say that you are Native and you're not even a little bit. And even me and Adrian went to her kickoff of her campaign here in California, in Glendale. Interesting evening. But she doesn't know how to play politician very well, and I think it shows.
Yeah.
If I were president, I would put her in charge of the Fed. I'd put her in charge of Wall Street or the citizen, that watchdog thing that Obama, that she created, but Obama would not let her run the financial services protection, consumer protection thing. I wish I could say that, but I've been talking a while, so shoot.
Yeah. Well, so as of now, we don't know who Biden's VP is going to be. But we do have him on record saying that he will have a woman as VP.
Yeah, and that woman will not be Tulsi Gabbard. The DNC hates her. Well, I like her. Yeah, I mean, look, if he picks like someone like Kamala Harris, who's just as corrupt, that's not going to help. If you pick Tulsi Gabbard, boom, he has my vote. He picks Bernie Sanders, he has my vote. Even that Marianne Williamson, Governess Moonbeam, if you picked her, I'd vote for Biden. But I don't think any of those people he's going to pick. I think it's kind of looking at either the Michigan's governor, which the water still isn't fixed in Flint. And Michigan is my home state. I was born and raised there, so I do have friends that are still there. I have friends in Flint, and it's still a thing. And there's got to be a thing where it's got to be the governor's fault if they failed on a city level or a county level. It's got to go to the governor, and I don't know what she's doing as far as that goes. So it would have to be. I mean, if there's Nina Turner, she would be fantastic, and I would vote for Biden in a heartbeat. But I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know a lot. Maybe Barbara Lee, but I don't think she's even in the running. But it's probably going to be someone like Kamala Harris or Stacey Abrams, and that doesn't help.
Yeah. I hope it's Hillary Clinton.
Oh my God! You say that would be impossible. I'm actually for a Stacey Abrams ticket, or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. But Bernie is not a woman, and so he's out of question for that realm. But
he's not picking Bernie. Period. He won't.
Yeah.
DNC's already put their foot down. He's not going to turn around and help.
Which is a damn shame. They should have learned from 4 years ago by this point that everyone was hoping for Bernie's comeback. This was this was going to be his story, and everyone was like vibing for it. But I think,
nope.
Yeah, I'd be very optimistic for a administration in which Biden is just like, the figurehead, but it's a good, a suitable VP who actually is pulling the strings from behind the scenes, much like a Dick Cheney Bush relationship.
Did with that.
Yeah. Wait, I mean, what they accomplished or achieved in that administration, I'm also not, a fan of. But in terms of the dynamics, the working
they accomplished a lot of it.
They accomplished a lot of bad, a lot of war. I won't deny that. But in terms of a working relationship, in terms of administration that that could pull us up from, what we're going through, I'd be much more interested in that kind of ticket. And I hope that is the case. I hope that is the case. I'm with you on terms of I'm not going to defend Biden. I think you brought up enough points that I agree with, understand. And a lot of people, even within my age range, are very reluctant to be voting for Biden, though it is right. It's just a bit, it's a point.
Is it the Pied Piper thing all over again, where we saw because of the DNC leaks that Hillary and her campaign manager, Podesta, were talking about how it would be great if Trump was the nominee, because look at him, of course I could beat him. We know how that turned out.
Right.
That might be what they're going for again. And if this pandemic didn't happen when it did, before it happened, he would have won an electoral landslide back in January. Those numbers have gone down, and now it's a bit more of a toss-up. So somehow and I know Trump wants a vaccine, wants a cure to this because he's getting reelected soon.
I think that would change the game.
He'd love to have that feather in his cap.
Oh yeah, if a vaccine were to come out, I mean, I think that there was something I saw on CNN that the first trials of a vaccine in the U.S. is being tested, and 45 of the 45 are showing improvements in their immune system. But in terms of a national rollout to the public, that won't be possible until early 2021. But I imagine if news were to circulate, if there were more successful tests, in this, hair of time, before the election, for sure Trump is going to milk that.
Well, he's good. Right now, he wants to go in the direction that we want him to go in, which is give us a vaccine. And one of the things he passed in his administration was the TRY Act, where if you're a terminally ill patient and this drug isn't approved by the FDA, but it might work, so people are allowed to do that. Do that, especially again, and it had to be. I think they had to at least 2 doctors sign off that this guy is incurable by what we are allowed to give patients. So if the TRY Act might wedge into it. They're not. I haven't heard anything about it, but I just remember that passed about, I think, 2 or 2.5 years ago. It was also again one of his campaign promises, which. Oddly enough, he has fulfilled a lot of his, higher than most. And I think that's because he stacked the deck. Saw that just about everything that Obama did was done through an executive order, which if you're not the executive, you can, and him and being the executive, he can overturn every single one of his executive orders. So he started running on that. Because a lot of people weren't happy with the Obama administration. Not necessarily for the reasons I despise them, but I've been hearing lately that Obama was openly joking with how he just couldn't work with people. And that was on a Pod Save America podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Very pro-Obama because it was 3 of his aides former aides and former campaign staffers run this podcast called Pod Save America. They're way on that. And for them to kind of like admit that, because these guys were some of these guys were in the room when big things happened. So I tend to believe it. And the other two guys didn't push back on it. Now Trump is a whole other animal. I wish he would be nicer. That would be nice. And I wish he would actually read those briefings before he walks out in front of a microphone. That would be good.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm confused about like your stance and distaste of Obama's administration, though that's 4 years in the past now, and Trump at this moment is consistently denying people, consistently ignoring briefings. You know, I don't see any light for this guy. I really don't. And his own niece came out with her book just this past week, Mary Trump.
Well, yeah, but I just saw an interview with her. She is the daughter of the older brother who died.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So it just seems to be a cash grab. I think that I've seen, like, there was that Fire and the Fury book, which just stunk of being complete and utter horseshit. And I don't know how much people are actually putting any water into that, into what she's saying. And the things, and well, of course, she's saying a lot of things that we already knew. He's a narcissist.
Yeah.
He needs to be the center of attention.
So, I mean, even if it is a cash grab, it doesn't deny the fact that it's true. It doesn't deny the fact that there's lived experiences that she's had with her own family, having grown up with Trump as an uncle and seeing his behavior, and some of the stories that like are very indicative of his behavior, like denying his own brother's death on a phone call with her, only for her to find out, like, no, he died like a few hours ago, and Trump is saying, oh no, he's in the hospital, he's doing all right, he's doing good, in very Trumpian fashion.
Have you read it?
And I haven't read it. Haven't had a chance. Going off interviews just as you.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's not a nice thing. If you, I'm assuming, I haven't heard that, and I'm assuming that you're an honest actor. I get it, but that's just basically kind of being an asshole, which we already know. But, it's kind of one of those things where it is kind of our asshole. If Trump has not started a new war, that's big. Who really hasn't? I'm still worried. I'm very worried about Venezuela, and I'm very worried about China. They might just take. There's rumors that there's a buildup that they're ready to invade Taiwan, and we're at a. Is Trump going to willing to threaten war on them when he's trying to win re-election? And the Chinese might just take advantage of it. The fact that our country is completely divided, and no matter what calls out of Trump's mouth, half of the country isn't going to believe it. Even if it's something as simple as, the sky is blue or water is wet. So I'm not saying he's like the peace and love candidate, but considering the last two,
I would disagree. I feel like if Trump were to say something that was agreeable, the country would respond with, "Oh, thank God you can see this part. Thank God you saw this." There was a lot of sighs of relief when people were when the cases were hitting the tens of thousands back in late March, where Trump finally took to seriously. When Fox News started taking it seriously is when he started taking it seriously. And so in those remarks he made, then the country who's seeing everything for what it is and how it's affecting families, their response was, okay, thank God he realizes this. But when he goes on his, rants of denial or focusing on himself, or, just a lot of just incoherent um, word vomiting that he does
Yeah.
that just leads to no solution. And that's another thing too. Even I will say this: public image means a lot. It means a lot. As much as we don't want to, admit it, things that we say affect. Yeah, and we saw like someone as lovable as Justin Trudeau. Blackface came out and suddenly reputation down the drain.
Yeah.
And so Trump has been just
He's got a
giving us
corruption charge on him too, I believe.
right.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
In a twisted way, I just want someone to represent the U.S. I'm not for the corruption and for the reputation of Biden, but I will take his gaffes representing America
if it was
more
just
than I'll
gaffes,
take. Huh?
if it was just gaffes, because I
If
can't.
it was there.
If I'm defending Trump's gaffes, I can't attack Biden's vocal misstumbles. So
Yeah.
I get that. If it was just the gaffes, that'd be great. But
Mm-hmm.
then there's what Trump almost got. What Trump did get impeached for, he really did. As far as with threatened to withhold funding the Ukraine. Now Trump's on the other hand is like, why are we giving them money for everything, every single thing? He's not big on foreign aid, which is why the WHO failure at the point that it is. Because I don't know if we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know a lot about the WHO. Will it stop working if we stop paying? And they've been paid this year, if I'm not mistaken. You get paid February. The money goes out, and then they have to re-sign up for it in the election. That would be generally in November is when that would probably get passed. So I don't know if we won't know if we're fully not sending them any money at all until then. But it's given Trump an excuse to say, hey, look what you guys screwed up. Do it. It's kind of like what he did with NATO. Hey, you guys aren't pulling into it. Now, to be honest, the last two, Obama and the Bush administration, were misusing NATO in order to put their military bases all over the freaking world. Well, the Maldives, I think they were trying to get them to join NATO, and Rand Paul called them out. He's like, you just want to, it was Rand Paul versus John McCain. And it says, you just want to put another military base there. We don't really need to be all over the world on that kind of stuff. So I get it. And I didn't even know. Did you even know that the World Health Organization was a thing?
I knew it existed. I knew. I wasn't aware of how much we relied on it, or
if we relied on it. Did we rely on it at all?
I got to do more research on that and understand the effects of cutting funding. Just from my understanding, though, just from a very present moment basis, why would the priority on Trump's docket list be to defund something that is supplying information and data on an ongoing pandemic? If there's anything to cut funding from, why would it be the source of information that we need?
Right.
So that's my logic going into it.
We needed them to have good information back in January and February. They didn't. They were kind of covering up for China, from what I understand. That is, I can't even remember. So take that one with a grain of salt, because I can't remember where I read that.
Likewise, and on the flip side, China is also responsible for withholding their own information. And so I won't pin that all on the WHO. At the same time, it became, the information is neutral. Statistics are neutral. It exists and it's there for a reason. And it's up to, each country's government to take responsibility for how they, react to that. And with the U.S. in terms of administration, Italy was there were videos posted everywhere from, Italians, residents who are saying, you guys are 2 weeks away from ending up where we are with the, when they're, nearing the rise of their spike. And, we were still, majority of us were still denying, coronavirus's impact. There were warning signs from other countries who had it worse than us. We saw how the lockdowns were, and Trump's administration just reacted way too slowly and comfortably, to the point that, arguably, if they just, if Trump didn't say anything, if he simply let the scientists who did bring up this information to him ahead of time, if he simply let them do their job, we would be in a much better position if he had said nothing. Which is ironically the same way that people have speculated about his own investments. If he simply let his own money sit in his bank account, it would have grown exponentially more than if he were to actually put some action and responsibility to it. Leading me to believe a lot of this is because of Trump's irrational, erratic behavior that holds back progress in different stages of where we're at in the U.S.
Now, there's a thing about Trump that he and this got out of his, I get this out of his book. As one of the keys to his success is to have the right people in charge of the right things, and then you don't have to worry about it at all. So, similar to what he's done with the military and our basically our war policy in the Middle East, let the generals just do things. He's not during the Obama administration. Apparently, you had to Obama had to sign off on any sort of a little attack or anything. Now, that may or may not be the greatest thing, because we don't normally find out about this stuff till about 4 or 5 years after the fact. So, but there are places where ISIS is going down. Now, getting back to the COVID thing, he was listening to Fauci. Fauci said that the U.S. didn't need to worry about this. It's okay. We were not going to need the PPE. You can send it over. And he was believing him. Now, I don't think Dr. Fauci is a dishonest actor. I do not. But there's so little we know about it, and we're expecting everybody to, we're expecting answers, but they really aren't there yet. I don't know when they're going to be there yet.
Dishonest actor is a very interesting choice of words.
For Fauci?
Can you expand more on that? What do you mean by dishonest? He's not a dishonest actor.
I don't think he's when he told Trump in February that the U.S. is not going to have to worry about it. I believe he felt, with all the information they had from him, that he was telling the truth. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm not saying he's dishonest. Honest, I don't know enough about the man.
Okay.
And everything he said, it's like, yeah, I get it. We don't know this. We don't know if the curve is actually going to flatten. Why are these states not hit at all? Why was New York City hit the worst? He's got as much information as he can get, but the answers that we need, they're still out there. We're not getting them that. And I don't think Fauci is doing anything underhanded. We're just in one of those is what it is situations.
Yeah. Fauci has served under 6 presidents, and he's currently director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So he's a man who is reputable, who knows what he's talking about. How I feel about his comments made back then was what I alluded to before, and that he was strong-armed in that position to say those things. I feel like in his eyes, he had to play politics. He had to, say just enough, to get the information out there, but just satisfying enough to Trump's ears where he would be given the platform to speak at all. So I think it's unfair to pin Dr. Fauci at that point. I get it. There is that risk of now looking back at those comments. What do they mean now in retrospect? But that's how I feel looking at it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it was
Yeah.
his fault. I'm just saying this is the information that Dr. Fauci had, and that's why Trump did what he did as far as sending the PPE stuff over to China, because again he was told that it was. Now Trump's not a scientist. I think that you would have a hard pressed trying to figure out what Trump actually, how well educated he is. That's another can of worms to open up. But just this in the middle of February, this is all the information he had, and Fauci, in his professional opinion, said the U.S. isn't going to be affected. He was wrong. People can be wrong. I'm not saying throw the baby off. I'm not saying fire him.
Yeah.
That it is what it is. Yeah, Trump would have had to shut down all of our borders, like Loctite.
Yeah.
Right, and install those wear a mask and wear a gloves and social distancing, and it would have had to learn all that stuff when it didn't quite look like that was going to be something necessary. Yeah, we're kind of armchair quarterbacking this thing. Monday morning quarterbacking this thing. I think he did the best he could. I don't know if there was, and I do think that he wants people to love him. He doesn't want people to die.
Yeah.
Right? And his whole, we should stop doing the testings. It's like, Don, Jesus Christ, Don. Man, yes, he's making a point. The same reason that there seems to be a lot more autism cases is because we've learned how to diagnose it very early, and now we know the signs to look for. With that, we don't necessarily know what's going on with this. I hope he's trying to. I do think that his heart is kind of in the right place, even though he could be a flaming asshole about things. And I think I've gotten kind of used to it. I think people have to realize that he's a braggart, and he overinflates everything. And then
Fauci?
No, Trump.
Okay, got you. Okay.
And that's just his nature. It's just what he does. It's the P.T. Barnum used car salesman access of his personalities.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I'd like to interject. What you guys are talking about, it seems that in April 28th, they had an argument between one of the reporters and Trump, and so they brought this back. But essentially, originally, on February 29th, there was an interview. I don't know who conducted the interview, but Anthony Fauci, and this is what everybody keeps quoting, he said that right now, at this moment, the risk was low and there was no need for people to change anything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. But he added that this could change, that people needed to be wary of community spread and that it could develop into a major outbreak. So when you look at the first half of what he said, it says everything is fine, you don't need to do anything. The second thing says there is a chance that it could turn into what happened now, pretty much. And that is a very subtle warning that I think he should have emphasized a little bit more in hindsight. But if
I wouldn't saw that subtle. I'm just saying this is it is he wasn't downplaying it, just that here we go. This is where we're at. But we learned what happened.
Yeah, it's diplomatic. I'd say it was as close to neutral as he could have worded it back then. And me seeing it live, on the news was like he was just being as diplomatic as possible. That's how. Yeah, and Adrian brought up a good point. Yeah, like you can look back at it and argue either way for it. And so, which goes back to why I feel at the end of the day, it still is not fair to discredit him, even though there's, it's
I'm not
such interpretation, but to discredit like fully, it's like, well, he wasn't wrong, he wasn't right, he was stating what it was.
Right. Yeah. I'm not. I don't think he deserves any discreditation at this point. At least I haven't seen any reason to do that. Yeah. He was wrong. People can be wrong.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those situations where this is like when was the last time the world was hit with something like this epidemic? Nothing that bad.
I don't think there was any right way for any country to have like combat it until after it was proven to have worked. and then we're at a point where everyone's having to learn from our mistakes. Just where we're at trending wise, the U.S. has a quarter of the world's cases, 3.5 million out of 14 million cases. So obviously we're in a whole lot of wrong.
Yeah. Where we should have stayed home instead of opened early, gone to a Trump rally, or protested, or, rioting and looting. We shouldn't have done any of that stuff either. But yeah, it's, again, I don't think, the way the media has treated Trump is, I would say, sometimes he deserves it, but most of the time he doesn't. And half of this country isn't going to listen to anything that Trump has to say. It was this way during Obama administration. Just when I know when I disagreed with him, I would get labeled as a racist.
And disagreeing with Obama's?
Yeah. If I was generally, when you can't attack somebody's point, you attack the person, and that was the go-to. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, you're racist." I mean, no. How yes, he got us back from the brink of one of the worst financial crises, but he did it at the expense of over 4.3 million people losing their homes, and made the Wall Street banks bigger, too big to fail, and being run by people who were too big to jail. So again, and Biden was a part of all of that. I wish Bernie Sanders was in the office, because just by the fact that I think both sides of the aisle listen to him. Yeah. I don't know that about Biden.
Yeah. No. And this is where I agree with you. Good. I really wish it was Bernie Sanders. I will say, in terms of Obama's administration, I'm not going to downplay the wars that he continued, and the failed promises. You touched on all those points, and those are all those are understandable, and I'm not going to fight against that. Yeah. I would say and argue reasonably so, it's a lot worse in Trump's scenario with all those things you brought up with in terms of how he's still he's keeping slots for his friends up there. How he's dealing with how he's only caring about Wall Street and pumping money into the stock market right now. How he's not focusing on the people's lives at stake. There are a lot more people going to be losing their homes as a result of this pandemic. And we can argue at the end of the day, however, exactly. And we can argue however much is Trump's fault versus this is just a international disaster. But at the end of the day, Trump will be remembered for how he's responding to it at the moment, and how he's responding to it at the very moment continues to fail and continues to disappoint us, and trajectory of where we can go. It will be an even worse stain than that whatever Obama had done in his administration would pale in comparison, just by the fact that we're reaching depression level, layoffs, unemployment, and the amount of people that are going to be homeless as a result of this is devastating. The amount of deaths that are just and the fact that we're hitting record highs at this point for confirmed cases. It just becomes a ongoing nightmare that I feel people are just numb to, and are just this is Trump's America.
A lot of people just going to opt out. Just the internet's just for cat videos. Yeah.
And I think that's very telling. If citizens of a country during this time is in that emotional state. Yeah. And I can't say I felt this way during Obama's administration. I'll say that for my sake. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the one I started getting here. Yeah, during that, I mean, they gave him the Nobel Peace Prize, for God's sakes, and then he gets us involved in 5 additional wars. You know, ask your average Libyan if he deserved that Peace Prize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, even though I am worried about China and Venezuela, he really is talking against these expansionist wars, where Biden was a part of quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
No, and so I don't. When was he on the right side of history? When did he actually do something that benefited humanity? Certainly wasn't the '94 crime bill that he wrote. Certainly wasn't the Patriot Act that basically he wrote from. And it was basically, I think it was like the '98 Omnibus Military Mass Surveillance Act or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't going to
Mm-hmm.
pass after the towers got hit. Then it passed. And when I'm not being hyperbolic about he wrote the legislation, because apparently that's something he's been known for.
Mm-hmm.
One of the reasons he ascended in politics very, very quickly, because he was a senator in his 30s, but he got on people's radar because he wrote really good legislation. You know, the Fast and the Furious, and there's quite a few things coming to light as far as the Obama Gates thing is going on, and it looks like the Obama administration did do some hinky stuff as far as unnecessarily wiretapping, unmasking the Trump campaign, and that in itself, Biden makes my skin crawl because of those things. He is exactly what a neoliberal. He's okay with the wars. He's okay with countries being regime changed just so they work better for America's interests and not the interests of the people inside the borders of that country.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I wish I could, but in this case, the lesser of two evils, it's Trump. Now, granted, I did say that I am going to go vote third party, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It looks like the Green Party is falling apart. And I actually talked to one of the libertarian leaders out here, and someone very close to Bill Weld, who ran as Gary Johnson's vice president. And I said, you guys, you could have done so much better. You almost got like 3.5 or something like that % of the vote. And fortunately, you were running the lost Marx brother. So I don't know if exactly if a third party is actually going to happen. I mean, what can we do? Trump's not going to do any sort of election reform. Or he's definitely not going to break up the RNC. So I know it's not that I trust Trump. I just kind of know what I'm going to get out of him at this point.
So that's your take. Is that like you're familiar
the
with
devil
Trump?
You know versus the devil you don't.
Okay, I see. I see
a lot about Biden because he's been in public life for a long time. So it's I wouldn't say he's quite the devil you don't. The devil you. Well, we know. Okay, yeah. I think I misspoke. What I did say is what I meant. Yes, Trump is the devil I know. Biden,
okay.
The devil I don't. But I know quite a bit. We all do.
What if there's an angel behind the curtains that would be Biden's potential VP?
That could change me. That would change me. And if it was Tulsi Gabbard or Bernie Sanders, I'm right in there. Andrew Yang, I like if he was getting pulled in there, but they won't. Marianne Williamson.
I think he has bigger plans.
Yang, I hope so. Although he could really do some stuff as vice president. Because I know that vice president, it's not exactly the hardest job in the world.
To stay alive.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I know a lot of people don't got this wrong, and I got it wrong for like the second most powerful person in America is the Secretary of State, not the vice president, because they don't give it's by design. They don't give the vice president a whole lot to do because he's a heartbeat away from having everything to do. And considering the health concerns over Biden, you're probably looking, I don't know how much longer he's going to make it. And I'm not saying don't vote for him because of that. So what I'm saying is that whoever he picks as his VP is going to be really, really important.
Yeah. A huge backup.
Yeah. My nightmare would be Hillary.
That would become way from left field.
Even Barack Obama, if he wanted to, he could be in the vice president. There's nothing stopping him.
Is that actually, could that actually be the case? Like,
yes. Yeah. You can, there are, if something were to happen to Biden, Obama would be, if Biden was the VP, he would become the vice president for the rest of that term. That's how the law works. I've heard a couple of constitutional lawyers talk about that on both sides of the aisle.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Mark Levine and Larry Lessig on the left.
I've only heard that in context of like jokes of from people who desperately wanted a president to just say complete sentences and wanting Obama to be back in and joking, well, could Obama run as Biden?
I wouldn't vote for him, but that would win. That would win a lot.
Yeah. I can imagine. Okay. Well, I'd say at the end of the day, regardless whoever Biden picks, I am for a shift. I'm for a change. And this, it's this happens all the time with American politics. You swing back and forth between red and blue all the time. And I believe this is due time for. I know we only have one term.
Right. Trump hasn't been in 4 years, but it seems much longer.
It seems much longer.
He is exhausting.
He is exhausting. Yeah. He is very exhausting. So that's me at the end of the day.
Some food for thought. It is estimated that almost 2/3 of voters fall somewhere in the middle, whether they're registered with a party or not. About 2/3 are estimated to be somewhere in the middle. Most people you talk to that are not screaming at you, that's about 2/3 of them. They tend to be moderates. They tend to be libertarians. They tend to be or just undecided. That's the majority of them. And it kind of comes down to who can be a little bit more in the middle to be able to reach those. We've had a bit of a stretch where there's not as much bipartisan support on certain topics anymore. If people were to realize that it doesn't have to be a dichotomy, there could be more than two parties to choose from. Obviously, that sounds like what libertarians would say. That's why I wrote Joe Jorgensen 2020 in the chat. Because, like Paul said, here, whether you vote for Trump or Biden, it doesn't matter. You're California.
We're speaking of here in California.
All going to go for Biden. If somebody were to vote for Trump, that vote would not go towards Trump when you live in California. If you vote for Biden, it will go for Biden either way because the majority of people in a state like California tend to vote in that direction. Now, we feel like it was a lesser of two evil back in 2016, that it is chapter 2 of that. It can be different if we had done this in 2016 where those 60, more or less, those 60% of people who were not happy having to vote had decided to vote for Green or Libertarian or writing somebody else. It would have gotten a few of them to get that 5% threshold they need to be able to get more coverage. It would have expanded the debate. Instead of saying, vote for me because I will give you stuff that the other person refuses, or vote for me because I'm better than the other person. It's always the same thing. It's, I'm not the other person, so vote for me. I'm better than the devil. Well, that's a low bar. And that's really annoying for everybody, especially for us millennials. Like, our first time voting was pretty much Hillary or Trump. And we ended up with Trump, and none of us were expecting that. And
yeah, I sure wasn't.
I wish it was Hillary. It sucks either way. Those were not ideal candidates. If you want a leader to represent America, those were not the right leaders. We had many other options, and they all got just cut the grass from beneath their feet. So
yeah, say what you will about the Republicans, they went with the popular choice in the RNC. They let Trump through, which the DNC couldn't let Bernie through.
Well, that's
twice.
The RNC and those are pretty much the ones who kind of decide a 50% who's going to be the next president. So they already know who the is. It kind of forced the voters to. It's really the electoral votes to go in that direction. The populist vote almost doesn't matter. It hasn't mattered in what, 2 decades, if not more.
Well, yeah. When was the last time there was a third party on the debate stage?
Right.
I don't remember one, and I was born during Nixon.
But they exist.
A third party has never won, though. A third party has never won the presidency, right?
No, because apparently the Republican was a relatively new party, I believe. There was the Whig Party, so early in our history, I believe third parties have won. But in my lifetime, there was an independent that got close. If I remember right, in 1980, there was a Gary Anderson. I was in 10th grade, so you're going to have to forgive me for that.
And I know, as far as I know, Theodore Roosevelt ran as an independent for a third term, but didn't win that. Yeah, I'm not sure if there was ever a third party president.
Yeah, definitely not within the last 50 years that I could think of. I remember Anderson did well, but I don't know if he got that 5%. And yeah, even if the Libertarian or the Green Party gets that 5%, does that mean that they're going to actually, win the presidency? There was a bunch of shenanigans that happen around in and around our election. No, but one of the reasons that I was a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard, I was not under the impression that she, even had a shot at becoming president because of her telling the DNC to go themselves back in 2016. But she changes the narrative, and that's more or less what they had. Because right now Biden is running on Bernie, and Biden got more votes. He's just adopting as much Bernie as possible. To kind of like, yeah, I'm sorry, you Bernie supporters. I know we screwed you in 2016, but we're not screwing you now because look, Bernie's right here. He's helping me out. Yay! Is he? Put him in my homework. Put him in on vice president. No. Who's ever said that? Hillary will kill you at some point. But yeah, I wish things were easier. I can't remember. It's like, wow, it's the difference of one's a shit sandwich and the other one's a shit sandwich with sprinkles.
Yeah.
We are so screwed.
No, we are. However, we want to dice it up, which is why it's like a difficult, thing to debate or discuss. And you brought up all those points about Joe Biden. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I don't disagree. I don't. I know. My views over the years have trailed from very radical left to more on the moderate end. Seeing as how realistic I have to be in my faith of the DNC as well. And
which we learned from the DNC lawsuit that they are an independent party that does not have to even count any of the votes. They said, well, you're lucky we don't. I mean, we could just make all the decisions in a closed room filled with cigar smoke and not have you all involved in it at all. But I think my point was getting Tulsi. I wanted her to change the narrative because her voice was strong enough so that unfortunately there was only a small time where they were talking about ending the regime change wars. And the media really did a nice little number on her, along with the DNC in general. But those are the things that I find really, really annoying. But, and I don't know what the situation is. If it's a private organization, the people have no real control over it.
Right.
We can't vote any of them out because that's not up to us. and I don't know what I mean. I have 2 Democratic senators and a Democratic House congressman, just like you guys do. And I don't think any of them are going to make any sort of change. I have Feinstein, I have Kamala Harris, and the worst, I have Adam Russia Schiff as my freaking congressperson.
Mm-hmm. You know what I think, though? I think that I think how I feel in terms of my experience of the country is just that, like, we've gone so far down through this pandemic that bringing us back to a level playing field is all that people want, or as Lee as I can say, is all I want. And so I'm thinking in terms of change is great. Change is great. Obama gave us hope. That's what we wanted. And it's, again, his administration is debatable as to how much change he actually accomplished. Understandable.
Except for getting people insurance coverage. Yeah, I can't think of something that really changed, that he changed.
I believe he was just a good face. A good face. I think that's what he represents most in terms of being America's black president.
He could work. He is a great orator. He could.
Biggest one, taking down Osama bin Laden. That was a big highlight as well. That he was able to accomplish. I believe he did a lot great with Obamacare. I think it was a good first step.
But he stopped working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I basically have Obamacare, and it is it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare, and a lot of the problems that I got Medi-Cal like a year before Obamacare dropped, and my life became a lot more complicated. And and the fact that he didn't start talking about it. No, he didn't start talking. He didn't try to fix things. There was stuff in there that made it like little implosions. It just was a big, warm gift to the health coverage. And I did notice that when he talked about he wanted to give everyone health care, about 6 months into it, he was now talking about getting people not health care but health coverage. And there is a big difference. And I would love to say that he did a lot of good, but I can't see it. Even DACA was a kick the can down the road, because I'd rather give these kids citizenship instead of protecting DACA.
Yeah. And here becomes the next thing. At least there is somewhat of a plan on Biden's side, whereas we don't see any plan forward from Trump's side. We've only been seeing trash talk, going against the news, trashing on Biden. That's as far as he's got, and pushing on his "Make America Great" slogan and going off in tangents of stories. There's no plan that he has for the future of the U.S., how he's going to go about the changes he even proposes. At least, even with Biden and the obscurities and the things that he tries to hide within his own past, at the very least, I'm trying to focus. All right, at least can I have a candidate who's solution based? And Biden has somewhat of plans set in place that he's proposing. Whether or not he completes it, I don't know. At least it sounds good for me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he has Trump has given an immigration plan, but the Democrats had to give him some of the wall, and we know that's not happening. They are not. Now, I wanted to get this quote right. If I told you that Biden said, you got, and this is a reference to Obama, if you got the first mainstream African American who's articulate and clean and bright, and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's storybook. Is that's a problematic statement, right? I would say.
Yeah. I'd say, I want to hear more of it in the context of you saying it.
Yeah, Trump
if I were to give him the
actually.
benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
Trump didn't say that. Biden said it.
Okay.
He said it when I think he said it when he was shortly after he was picked as the VP. But yeah, you mean what we kind of know what we're getting with Trump, and he actually meets with black leaders a hell of a lot more than people give him credit for. Or apparently he's got something going on with the Congressional Black Caucus to feed about, I want to say, I think somewhere around $500 billion to revitalize certain, the inner cities, which have been neglected for so long.
If we're going to dip within the conversation of racism in presidents, I think it's indisputable that Trump is racist. That there are a lot of his things, even if I were to try my best to give him the benefit of the doubt and just being, that's just Trump. The end of the day, they do have very racist intonations and impact on the ethnicities in which he's talking about. And I'll speak from my own personal experience, just being an Asian American, and his jokes about calling it, coronavirus, the China virus, or the Kung flu.
The Kung flu is not a helpful statement at all.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. And we've definitely seen an uptick of violence in the Asian American community, race-related incidents, and also ones that have been prompted by Trump supporters. And that's just speaking on my experience as an Asian person. And he's at least offended one community within his presidency at one point in time. I will say that.
He's defended the Asian community?
No, he's offended, not defended, offended.
Fair
at
enough.
least one, at one point, one community. So that's what I'll say. I'm excited to, looking forward to what you're going to say, though.
Well, I'd like to actually, now that one, the Kung flu, is it necessarily racist or a dumb joke? We do tend to call these things after the countries that there is the countries of origin. So because China is such a big place, I would just stick to calling it the Wuhan virus. Kung flu, no. And I don't think anybody's really written in the history books will be the Corona 19, not the Kung flu. When we're that far away. But I wouldn't necessarily look at that as racist. And I know there's a lot of misinformation about things that he said. And again, I'm not the biggest fan of this guy. But when, like the good people on both sides of the aisle thing, a minute after he says that, he's talking about, I'm not talking about the white nationalists, I'm not talking about the white supremacists. They need to be called out bigly. I believe he actually said bigly because he's Trump. But that was a minute after that he said that. And he said that then there are still people in the media that say that he has never called out what happened in Charlottesville. Well, and he has quite a few times in the same speech each, and they want to paint him as a racist. And the thing that irritates me the most, because that's just one dude, but everybody who voted for him is being labeled as being okay with racism, that I'm going to push back on. People voted for Trump for a lot of reasons. I don't think they actually voted for him because he was perceived to be a racist. Especially in, I've watched a Vice documentary about it. A real white supremacist, a real Klans guy, and they followed him around. And they said, "Yeah, we hate Trump because he let his daughter marry a dirty Jew," which was the exact words out of that guy's mouth. I didn't say that. That guy is purely a piece of shit. So, so you think he gets unfairly hit with it, but he brings it upon himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think he likes this. I think he really, really likes this. But
Mm-hmm.
after a while, when the media just takes everything he says and warps it, because people who actually, because if a journalist is talking about how, you know, the good people on both sides, what did he mean by that? And he cleared it exactly in the same speech. They're either not good at their jobs, or they're just partisan evilness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think he's as racist just about as anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I know I was called racist many times when I would criticize Obama's how he bailed out Wall Street, not the people.
Mm-hmm.
What does race have to do with that at all?
Mm-hmm.
You know. So, aside from what if you want to address what I said about the Charlottesville case, what other cases do you have an issue with, or times that he's perceived to be a racist?
I'll let his word speak for himself.
That's fair.
I don't think it's a perception thing, right? We can go all the way back into when he was even running for office, and regarding building the wall and talking about Mexicans who are bringing in their people aren't bringing the best, and some of them are rapists and murderers, and so I can, and this goes back to what I said before.
Mm-hmm.
We can say at least one point in his administration, he's at least offended one community, whether it be the LGBTQ, whether it be, you know, immigrants, whether it be, you know, Asian community more so now, you know, Mexicans in the beginning of his administration, and treating like the African American people as you know, look at my friend, right? You have many instances.
That's my African American.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, African Americans, they love me, right? So,
they love him more than any Republican candidate in the last 40 years. They're not really looking at, you know, the African American community historically has not really looked to the Republican Party. So yes, I'm not saying that there's a majority in the African American community that supports Trump, but it's a higher number than it's been in 40 years.
Yeah, and I acknowledge that. I recognize that. I've seen like interviews and hearing their own points of views about it. You know, Black Republicans. It's interesting, though I disagree. But you're right. They do exist. They are out there. But at the end of the day, in regards of like, you know, what do we want in terms of a leader that will lead this nation? It will have to be a president who is conscious of what he says in regard to, you know, the various minorities that exist within America. And Trump is not the voice that would unite them, you know?
Yeah. Now the media is not helping, but he does. He tends to like want to. Most of the time you see his speeches, there are people there that support him, or is at least willing to work for him, or at least to hear him out, and undecided with their voice.
Right.
But no, he's not that leader. But I mean, we went through like I'd say, I mean, he's different than any other president that I think that happened in my lifetime. There's a bit of Reagan in him, and I'm not a big fan of Reagan.
Interesting.
Because the guy knows how to work a room, but he doesn't realize that people beyond that room.
Right.
So he's saying things that kind of work the crowd in front of him, but there's a bunch of people at home. Like when he said this was the most viewed inauguration ceremony ever. It was, but not attended. Not even a little bit. But you had like how many million pussy hat wearing people in the streets the next day? They didn't all come in on the train. They planned for that. They were sitting there. Now I say that it was the most viewed. That's kind of a no-brainer, because you got to think on November 8th, there were probably 2 farmers in a rice paddy way in the far jungle of Malaysia or something like that. And one of them turns to the other one and goes, "They elected who?" There was a get your popcorn moment. It was like, that guy. That's who they elected. Well, I'm going to see this. I remember watching his inauguration when he got out of the limo and started like, I'm like, oh my God, he's going to get shot. Jesus Christ. You know, and Pence is very scary. If he was within a year of a Pence presidency, Social Security and Medicare would be privatized. No doubt in my mind. And those things need to be in the public area.
Worms, because we've opened quite a few. We're our deadline. Some of us have got to go. So let's
oh, fair enough. This has been a good talk, man.
This has been interesting.
Yeah. All right, Alex, I want to thank you for appearing on it. Probably have you back again, unless you think I'm not worth talking to, but you know.
Oh, no, I think you're great to talk to.
Thank you. Ditto as well. This is not, I did not want this part of it to be any sort of, we're not going to cut you to make you look stupid.
Okay.
Period. That won't happen on this.
I'm going to cut Paul to look stupid, though.
Right. That can happen because I'm on the key. I can do that. I can do that. That's me. It's fine. Fine. I mean, my avatar on my Militant Moderate page is me with googly eyes behind my glasses. You know, so yeah.
Oh, Alex, I think you can see it. If you look at the chat, you can see his avatar right next to his name.
Hold on, let me do it right now. It's going to freeze my camera. Oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So I ain't worried.
All right, man. Well, I'm hoping we can do this again in the future. We talked about half of the topics, and we went on for 2 hours, so you guys definitely had a really good conversation. I'm sure there's more to be had. So in the future, just let us know, and we'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I wish I was a little more. Wish I did a little more homework on it before coming in, but it was a good conversation. And
vice versa. If you want to talk about a specific subject, please hit me with it, because I'm not I try not to be one of those people that keeps talking even though they don't know shit. So I'll tell you. Oh yeah, we got to put a pin in it. We got to look into it. I don't know what the flag code was in 1976 in Philadelphia. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna work on that so I can be more of that Jamie to your Joe Rogan. Talk it out, kind of like I did with the Fauci thing. Well, you guys.
Yeah, you look that up. Can you look that up? Bring it up, Adrian. Can you pull it up?
I think it's in the chats. What he said on February. Is it in the chat?
I wish you guys looked at the chat. Like you hardly did. No, but we're all good. Definitely next. All right, Alex. It was fun having you, man. Get back to your family.
No, at some point, we'll have a drink in the real world. All right.
Yeah. Well, I would love to drink over it. I was. This was a good conversation. I'm glad. There are points I see from you and I understand and I'm familiar with. I don't agree with all of them, but I'm glad we were able to have a civil discourse over it.
Yeah, and I think so little of that these days.
Yeah. A younger me in my college days might have had a different turn, but I've since then been more understanding, accepting, and that's only a way for people to be more understanding, accepting of my own ideas.
Yeah, I tend to I end every one of my episodes with the from the classic Roadhouse, the Tao of Dalton, meticulously played by Patrick Swayze. Nice. That's it. Just be nice.
Be nice.
Sometimes you gotta not be nice, but if that's where you're at generally, I think the world is just a better place for it.
Yeah.
But that being said, I have had to take a piss for the last hour.
Wash your hands.
Held it in.
Oh crap! I'm not wearing pants. Okay, so I'll see you guys.
Don't get up.
I'll see y'all. All right. Thanks for hosting this, man. Great talk. I'll catch y'all later.
Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. Peace, y'all.
This was the Sunday conversation with the Militant Moderate podcast. I think that went well. Well, at least nobody called each other's, nobody wound up insulting one another's mother. So at least there's that. But please be sure to like and subscribe and hit that little notification bell so that you get a little notifying little message in your inbox that says, hey, I put something out, you know. And please feel free to share and comment down below. You can ask Alex questions. I'm sure he's around. You can ask me questions, or just direct all your mean comments towards me, because, you know, that's normally what happens. So we will basically have once a week, it'll be me and Adrian will be asking me questions. And then also we're going to try and have a chat show. We'll try to get a new guest every other week, but yeah, we're probably going to be recycling some people here and there. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for watching. And, you know, as I ended every one of the previous episodes, the Tao of Dalton, the character perfectly played by Patrick Swayze in the classic Roadhouse. Everyone just be nice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.